Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Jason Wright Show. All right, so today is going to make you better. This episode of the Jason Wright Show is going to make you better. I guarantee it. If you will just listen to what I have to say today, you will improve in some way. This is going to make your life better. I am dedicated to making this podcast be something that every single time you listen to it, there's a valuable takeaway. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is I'm going to start going to those who have proven their stripes, okay, that are way more accomplished than me, that have done more than I have. The people that I look to as virtual mentors, I'm going to bring them into the show and share them with you on a regular basis. One such individual is Naval Ravikant. And in this video that I'm going to show today, and I'm going to give some commentary on, he's talking to Chris Williamson of Modern Wisdom about how most people waste their lives and they don't even realize it. And there's a very particular reason why I want to talk about this, because there have been some instances recently in my life, and I really can't explain it. It was not even deliberate, but there is something that has happened in my life where I've started to put this into practice, and it has been a complete game changer for me. I mean, I'm telling you, it has changed my life. So with that, I want you to listen to this message from Naval Ravikant, where he's going to tell you about how pain and suffering really isn't even real. There are no problems in the world. There are only the ways we view those problems. Most of our problems, with the exception of acute pain, meaning like somebody's cutting your arm off or something like that, or your wife's beating your head with a rolling pin, those are real. That's a real problem. But the majority of our problems only exist between our ears. This is something that I have absolutely started to understand. Consciousness is a powerful thing. And whenever you can start to be aware of that, the only thing that's real is consciousness, and how we decide to process that consciousness determines whether there's real pain and suffering to be had, or if we can just dismiss it. I'm telling you, this absolutely works. But before I go any further, here's what Naval Ravikant has to say on this topic.
What is happiness? I think it's just basically being okay with where you are.
Not wanting
things to be different than the way they are. Not having the sense that anything is missing in this moment. If you can observe your own thoughts and view them a little objectively, then you can start being a little more choosy, a little more critical. And you can realize that there are no problems in the real world other than maybe things that inflict pain on your body. Everything else has to become a problem in your mind first. You have to view it and interpret it and create a narrative that it is a problem before it becomes a problem. And then you realize that a lot of your emotional energy is spent on reacting to things that your mind is automatically saying are problems. And you don't need all those problems. Do you really need that many problems in your life? Again, I would say try to focus on just one overarching problem and then go solve that problem. If you define pain as physical pain, then it's a real thing. It happens and you can't ignore it. But that's not what we mean by suffering. Suffering is mostly mental anguish and mental pain. And it just means you don't want to do the task at hand. If you were fine doing the task at hand, then you wouldn't be suffering. And then the question is, what's more effective, to suffer along the way or just to interpret it in a way that is not suffering? You hear from a lot of successful people, they look back and they say, oh, the journey was the fun part, right? That was actually the entertaining part and I should have enjoyed it more. It's a common regret. But just be careful, because your attention is the only thing that you have. One big anxiety resolver for me is just ruminating on death. I think that's a good one. You're going to die. It's all going to zero. If you can keep the idea in front of you at all times that you're going to die and that everything goes literally to zero, what's there to stress about?
Yeah, for better or worse, life is very short. How should people deal with its briefness?
Enjoy it. There's a little thought exercise I like to do, which is you can go back into your own life and try to put yourself in the exact position you were in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And you try to remember, okay, who was I with? What was I doing? What was I feeling? What were my emotions? What were my objectives? And really try to transport yourself back and see if there's any advice you'd give yourself, anything you'd do differently. Now, you don't have new information. Don't pretend you could have gone back and, bought a stock or bought Bitcoin or whatever. But just knowing what you know now in terms of your temperament and a little bit of age-related experience, how would you have done things differently? And I think it's a worthwhile exercise to do. So don't let me rob you of the conclusion. But I'll tell you, for me, I would have done everything the same, except I would have done it with less anger, less emotion, less internal suffering, because that was optional. It wasn't necessary. And I would argue that someone who can do the job at least peacefully, but maybe happily, is going to be more effective than someone who has unnecessary emotional turmoil. And the journey is not only the reward, the journey is the only thing there is. Even success, it's human nature to bank it very, very quickly, right? Because the normal loop that we run through is you sit around, you're bored, then you want something. Then when you want something, you decide you're not going to be happy until you get that thing. Then you start your bout of suffering or anticipation while you strive to get that thing. If you get that thing, then you get used to it, and then you get bored again. Then a few months later, you want something else. And if you don't get it, then you're unhappy for a bit, and then you get over it, and then you want something else, right? That's the normal cycle. So whether you're happy or unhappy at the end, it tends not to last. Now, I don't want to be glib and say that, oh, there's no point in making money or being successful. There absolutely is. Money solves all your money problems. So it is good to have money. That said, there are those stories that shows that people who break their back and people who win the lottery are back to their baseline happiness 2 years later.
Yep.
Again, I don't know if that's entirely true. I think money can buy you happiness if you earned it, because then along the way, you have both pride and confidence in yourself, and you have a sense of accomplishment, and you set out to do something and you were right.
How do you shortcut that desire contract?
You could focus, you could decide that I don't want most things. I think we have a lot of unnecessary desires that we just pick up everywhere. We have opinions on everything, judgments on everything. So I think just knowing that those are the source of unhappiness will make you be choosy about your desires. And frankly, if you want to be successful, you have to be choosy about your desires. You have to focus.
You can't be great at everything.
You can't be great at everything. You're just going to waste your energy and waste your time. Don't do something you don't want to do. Why are you wasting your time? There's so little time on this earth. Life goes fast. What is it, 4,000 weeks? That's your lifespan. And yes, we hear that, but we don't remember it. But I guess I'm keenly aware of how little time I have, so I'm just not going to waste it.
There is so much wisdom in that clip, and I want to break it down into multiple parts that Naval was telling Chris. It's from the Modern Wisdom podcast, by the way, Chris Williamson's amazing podcast that I highly recommend to everyone. I will click I'll try to find the full interview and put a link in the show notes. First of all, this reminded me of what has become one of my favorite quotes in the whole world, which is from Henry V, in the quote says, a coward dies 1,000 deaths. A hero only once. All right, I'm going to repeat it one time. A coward dies 1,000 deaths. A hero only once. Here's the meaning of that quote. A coward, someone who's scared and worried and frettish all the time. They're constantly thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Something bad's going to happen. There's something around every corner that's going to get me. It's going to hurt me. The hero doesn't worry about it till they have to worry about it. The only time the hero is going to worry about death is when death is at the hero's door. That's not to say I don't ever worry. That's not to say that I don't get concerned. But I have started to minimize my worry and concern because guess what? There's probably nothing I can do about whatever the worst outcome is. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Secondly, I've said this before on this podcast. I'll say it again. I've said it to my daughters. Whatever the worst case scenario is, it usually does not come to pass. Whatever you think the worst case scenario is in your life, it's most likely not going to come to pass. So why are you going to waste your time worrying about it? And then all of a sudden you think about like what Naval Ravikant is saying here is that this suffering that we take on is completely arbitrary. There's no reason for it. It does not add one modicum of value to your life. It's worrying about a thing happening is in no way going to prevent the thing from happening. It's just not. So that's one thing. Another thing is I'm very, very keen lately on this idea of wanting things. Jimlyn and I were just having this conversation in my garage 2 nights ago. I was finishing up a workout and she came home and she said, do you just love it out here? I said, yeah, I do. This is my favorite part of the house. Look, let me tell you something. I have friends that have their own CrossFit gyms in their massive garages that are superior to the ones that people pay to go to. They are gorgeous. They're phenomenal. Mine is not that. Mine is I have a nice little PRX system, against the wall, but it's for most, it's a garage with gym equipment in it. It's not a gym that I also use as a garage. But I love it so much. And really, the older I get, it's things like that I love the most. My ice barrel that's in my backyard, I told Jimlin the other day, I was like, I get in this thing and I look at our little backyard. Our backyard is very small. Our house is not big. Our house is small. And I look at it with the sun shining on my face and I'm like, I'm so lucky. I feel so lucky. It's like, it's wanting what you have, right? And I don't know, maybe that's just becoming older. And I think that whenever you reach a certain age, maybe, and if you're lucky and you really start to put some thought into this, which is the hope for this podcast, is that if you're not there yet, if you're younger and you're still mired in the abyss that is want, that you'll start to look and ask yourself, why do I want that thing and what will be the outcome? It was a number of years ago that I realized I'm never going to enjoy a new car for much longer than maybe the first few weeks I drive it. I mean, it was so weird. I used to really enjoy a new car. I went through a phase for years and years I didn't. And then all of a sudden I got to where I liked having a new car, like the novel aspect of it, trying new cars, the new car smell. And then it dawned upon me one day, I'm like, wow, that fades really quickly. And then all you're left with is just a car, a tool to get from point A to point B. So I think that's one of the things that we have to really, really start to figure out is, if want can lead to misery and pain and suffering, and it's all just consciousness, then why invite more of it into our lives? That was something I think was really striking to me about this. Then there's this idea of death. This is another one that I've started to think a lot more about. Now, one of the things too, I want to back up to, when he talks about pondering being at a different moment in time, going back 5, 10, 15 years ago, I do this a lot with my daughters. If I could have a do-over as a dad, and I'm a good dad, and I've been a good dad, but I always think that's one that, man, if I could only go back, and there's one moment that repeats in my mind where I got really frustrated with Abby when she was a little girl. She was trying to she had this little acrylic maze that you had to navigate this little metal ball through the maze and get it to the place where it would somehow land in just the right place where you could then open the door and you could take the money out that was in the acrylic box. It was like a little puzzle maze thing that, it had $50 in it. And Abby brought it into me and she was crying and frustrated, mad. And I got so frustrated at her frustration. If I could go back to that moment, and that's why it resonated with me whenever Naval said that if he could go back, he wouldn't really change a whole lot, but he would go through life with a lot less angst and anger and aggravation. That's what I would do. I would give anything to go back as a father who was constantly scared. I was very frightened. I worried so much about Rylan and Abby when they grew up, and it stole so much of my joy as a parent, being so constantly worried about their well-being that I would lose sight of the joy and the absolute bliss of being their dad. It would cause me to just be an asshole at times, frustrated, stressed out. I wish I would have chilled out more. I wish I would have been that way about a lot of things. My first business, I think about that. If I could go back and start all over at 28, owning my first business, I would appreciate it so much more. And so what I do now is kind of like what Naval Ravikant was talking about, is I remember those things that I took for granted back when I was less mature, and I try to bring that into the modern day and think, okay, slow this moment down and savor it. And even if you're really frustrated, even if you get a bill that's going to be like astronomical. I mean, I've told you guys that I just paid for a wedding this year. A lot of big bills that will just like knock you over the head and like, oh my God. But then finally throughout the process, I started saying, I know I'm going to get through this, and I don't want the fear of spending that money and not having it later steal from the joy in the present moment and the reality that right now we can do this. It's happening. We can do it. And I want the memory to not be that I was stressed out and frustrated about money, but instead I was focused on the happiness and the joy that this brought Rylan, my daughter that got married. That's something I think that I've been able to do better. So I encourage you to take Naval Ravikant's advice and stop in these moments. And some of you right now, I've got friends that are listening to this that I know listen to the show regularly. Your new fathers in particular. I don't know if I've got any new moms that listen to the show, but I do know for sure I've got some new fathers. And this is so much easier said than done because I've got the benefit of hindsight being 2020. But I'm telling you, just those moments whenever you are stressed out, you have no idea how you're going to pay for that college. You're going to have to, how you're going to take your new young family on a vacation, whatever it is. Don't let the stress of that and the misery that you're allowing to happen in your mind steal from this moment that you will never get back. You'll never get it back. Finally, death. I think of this a lot, and I think that just comes to with age, is that every single day, we take our days so for granted. We just assume that tomorrow's going to come. And so we just kind of think, we just treat a day like a commodity, kind of like a glass of water out of the tap or something, or like a flush of the commode, or just turning the car on and we expect it to turn on. We just expect that tomorrow's going to come. It's just automatic. But the fact is, even though there is a very strong likelihood that tomorrow is going to come, there's something that's also going to happen. There's down the road, our health is going to change. Our relationships are going to change. People who are currently alive in our lives will not be alive. They're not going to be there. So when you start to take inventory of what you have each and every day, this day, that if you made it through this day and your grandmother's still alive, your spouse and you are still alive, you and your spouse are still young enough that you can make love. I know that sounds crazy, and Jimlin will kill me for saying that on the podcast, but I mean, seriously, there will come a time, if you're so fortunate, you will live long enough that you're just going to look back at the days you're living right now where you can take the time to have intimacy with your wife, that it's going to be a little bit different one day, right? You get to travel and you get to do things. And I think about that a lot, and a lot more than I used to with Rylan and Abby. Every time I see them now, I try to just freeze the moments in my mind, because it's like I'll never get to have them back as little girls, but I've got them as these beautiful, thriving young women, as daughters. And I know also there's this really good article that was written a while back called The Tail End, I think is what it's called. And it shows little illustrations and likelihoods of how many more times you're going to see your loved ones. And it shows, like right now, I mean, let's face it. So I went from getting to see Abby and Rylan on an almost daily basis for so much of their lives to now where they both live in different cities. Abby lives in multiple states away. I bet that I could easily count up how many times I'm probably going to see Abby for the rest of my life. And it's not that big of a number, I assure you. I mean, if I go easily months now without seeing her. So let's say that I see her at Christmas. Didn't see her last Easter. Didn't see her Thanksgiving. But let's say I see her once or twice randomly, Christmas, and what else would let's say I see her 4 times a year. 4 times a year. Well, if I live another, I'm going to do this math. Let's say I see her 4 times a year and I live to be 90. Okay. That's 39 years. That means I'm going to probably see Abby 156 more times. That's not a big number. That is not a big number. That kind of shakes me, man. That sucks. Anyway, so I just think that this is, life is short, and we're all going to die one day. It's a zero-sum deal. You're going to be alive, then you're not. And the things that we let work us up, I've been the master of that for the better part of my life. The things that we let work us up are of no value, and our consciousness is the only thing that's real. Our consciousness of the thing that we're letting bother us and make us miserable is the only thing that's real. The actual thing, it hasn't even happened. The past is gone. It's never coming back. The future is fake. It's not real. The only thing that is real is right now, in this moment, the present. So I wanted to play that for you. Now, let's move on to another one. One of my favorite performance coaches. What is his name? Joe Hudson. Joe Hudson. Joe Hudson in this little clip proves why he is a master coach. He's talking to Rich Roll, who is an ultra endurance athlete. The dude completely has reinvented himself multiple times. I mean, he's a stud. He's an incredibly remarkable human being. And I relate to some of the questions that he's asking Joe Hudson in this clip. And the questions that Joe Hudson throws back at him are so genius. So I want you to put yourself in the seat of Rich Roll and kind of role play this out. I did it, and it's like, man, it just brings such clarity. It really does. So check this out.
I can't just decide to be in awe and wonder.
You give me any question that you're in your life, and it needs to be in the form of a how or what question. And then I'm going to respond with a how what question. We're just going to go back and forth.
What is interfering with my ability to actually enjoy my amazing life?
How would you know if you were enjoying your amazing life?
This is fucking me up. How can I return to the experience of feeling joy that used to come easy when I was younger?
What makes joy need to be easy?
All right, first I'm just trying to understand the question. What makes joy? Wait, what makes joy
need to be easy?
Need to be... What are you doing?
That's wonder.
I love that. And I've done that. I went through a phase where it's like, why is it so hard for me to find and feel joy anymore? Why it used to be so easy. Why is it supposed to be easy? Joy is a pretty big and powerful thing. Why should it be easy? And then also, I guarantee you what Rich Roll was thinking, because he was looking back, right? Why can I not have wonder and whatever he said like I used to? Why do I not feel joy? And then the question Joe asked is like, well, how would you know if you were living this incredibly wonder-filled life? Because you and I, we're living it. We are currently living in what we will one day call the good old days. Wherever we go, if we don't find ways to find and master joy and wonder and excitement, and not taking this day, this life, these moments, these relationships for granted, then what we're going to do is we're going to get to an even worse place in the future and look back on this marginal existence of our life and think it was much better than what it really was. And so what we're doing is we're going to look to the past as something so with such nostalgia and such like it was great and it was wonderful. Well, at the time you were there, I guarantee you did not feel that way. It's only when you look back and it's gone. So why not have it now? Why not live it now? I hope you found this helpful. I hope you find your joy. I hope you find excitement in your life. I hope that you focus on the present. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please click like or subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast. And that's it. I'm Jason. I'm out.
This episode of The Jason Wright Show is sponsored by Authentic Health. At Authentic Health, we believe real health starts at the cellular level. In today's world, stress, processed foods, environmental toxins, and poor sleep are working against your body every single day. If you want to take control of your health and build a stronger foundation, Visit shopauthentichealth.com and use promo code Jason to get 10% off your first order. That's promo code Jason for 10% off at Authentic Health.